Hi, I'm Sam Lloyd, priest in charge of Trinity Church, Boston. Whoever you are and wherever you may be in your spiritual journey, I hope you will find here food for thought and strength for your journey. Welcome. In the name of Yahweh, the Holy One. Amen. Some of the best conversations I have as a priest are with people who are struggling with their faith. They may have grown up going to church, but have found the beliefs they picked up in those school years inadequate to match the adult questions their lives were presenting them. Questions about living in a world saturated with thoughts of technology and science, but questions too of life's midlife struggles, or the reality of suffering, or the great disappointments that come in life. Plenty of others grew up with no exposure to church at all, and many I talk to are looking for some kind of spirituality, but they don't think they're going to find what they need in church for whatever reason. But when I talk to them, what I sense most is the hunger, the yearning to know what's really going on in their lives and in the world around them. 1,600 years ago, St. Augustine named that yearning, "Our hearts are restless, O Lord, until they rest in you," as a longing for God. The yearning that ultimately drove C.S. Lewis to Christianity was a constant longing that he said was like a nostalgia, a yearning for some lost place that he lost along the way and would give anything to reclaim again. More up to date, singer Bruce Springsteen sings, "Everybody has a hungry heart." And this: a young man diagnosed with a cancer that he knew would take him soon penned an urgent note to novelist Reynolds Price, who had published a memoir about his own fight with cancer. The young man wrote that he was desperately looking for answers to two questions: does God exist? And does God care? The hunger is real. There are reams of writings these days about this hunger that seems to persist in spite of our 24/7 immersion in our electronic devices. A major report came out in Newsweek in its last year or so on what is happening in American spirituality. And it talked a lot about an amazing flowering of spirituality everywhere in America of every kind, and pointed to such people as Thomas Keating, the Catholic monk who's brought together Christian mysticism and Zen Buddhism to create this thing called centering prayer. Well, at the end of the issue, Martin Marty, one of the wisest observers of religion today, declares this: young people get tired of hearing that once upon a time people experienced God directly. They want it to happen for themselves. They don't want to hear that Joan of Arc had visions. They want visions. The yearning is strong. Many of us were shaped by the kind of faith theologian Marcus Borg recalls receiving in his Lutheran home, believing in a supernatural being somewhere out there who created the world a long time ago and occasionally has intervened over the eons, especially in the Bible. Whatever it was, God is not here now, but always somewhere else. But someday, after death, a person might get to be with God, provided that he or she has believed the right things and had a good behavior record. That way of thinking, Borg says, doctrinal, moralistic, literal, exclusive, oriented to the afterlife, has ceased to be compelling to many people, including many Christians. We are a hungry, yearning species. Those of us who gather here relish the gift that religion and tradition bring. They carry through the centuries the wisdom and the memories that still shape our faith. But the hunger of the heart these days is for an authentic encounter with a God who is real. And so is the desire for a healthy, worldly spirituality. As all of us regulars at Trinity know, we are now well launched on our year of the Bible, our journey through the Hebrew Scriptures, what we once called the Old Testament. We've been looking to explore this ancient faith in the hope that the past can speak to the present, that the God sightings of an age when the air was thick with the presence of God can offer markers for us as we make our way. In the Bible, there is not one single argument for the existence of God. The Bible is utterly uninterested in the subject. Instead, it gives us these very human stories about people of every age and situation encountering this mysterious one, this presence. And one of the most important stories of all is the story we heard in our first lesson today. The story of Moses and the burning bush and the mysterious naming of God. As that story opens, the Hebrew people are now living not in their familiar lands, but in Egypt, where they've traveled to find food to survive. And there's a powerful Pharaoh who's gradually turned these nomadic tribes into slaves over the decades. But the more the Hebrews were oppressed, the more they grew and thrived, it seemed. And before long, the Pharaoh began to fear an uprising. The oppression intensified, and the Pharaoh planned to kill all the Hebrew boy babies. The Hebrews became increasingly desperate, and in their suffering, they cried out to God for deliverance. Then one day, a man named Moses was out tending the sheep, doing his daily duties, when he saw a bush of flame, but strangely not being consumed by the flame. And he stopped in his tracks, turned, stunned, to pay attention, and then heard a voice. "Come no closer. Take off your shoes. You are on holy ground." "I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob," the voice declared. "I have seen the misery of my people. I've heard their cries. I know their sufferings, and I've come to deliver them from the Egyptians and lead them to a new land. And I'm choosing you, Moses, to lead the way." God intrudes into Moses' life, interrupts what he was planning to do with the rest of his life, and gives him a new vision of himself and a new call for what he must set out to do. God comes, it seems, and calls. Then Moses wonderfully, strangely responds as naturally as you could imagine. "Why me? I'm not qualified. Who am I to do all this?" "You won't be alone in the work," God says back. "Calm down. I will go with you. You're going to do this." "Okay," Moses says, "if you say so, but who shall I say sent me? What is your name?" And then comes the most mysterious sentence in the whole of Scripture. "I am who I am," the voice says. "Tell them I am has sent you." The Hebrew can be translated other ways, so that his name could mean, "I will be who I will be," or "I am the one who is," or "I will cause to be what I will cause to be." This could have been the moment for God to answer all of humanity's questions once and for all. Here was a conversation going on. God could have just said, "I'm King of the universe, the ruler of the sun and stars. I'm Father, I am Mother, I'm the creator source, I'm the wind." But no. The God of the Bible refuses to be defined. No human representation can capture and express this mystery of mysteries. Every name, every description of God limits God's vastness, limits God's depth. God doesn't have a name, the story is saying, beyond "I am." The tradition in Judaism has been never to pronounce the word God, and certainly not the Hebrew form of the word for God. the four consonants without vowels to tell you how to say it that make up what we say as Yahweh, a name never to be used because to name God in this tradition would be to begin to control God, to know too much, to cling to who God is. This God remains unknowable beyond anything we can describe or recognize. One of the great theologians of the 20th century was Paul Tillich, who made clear that God is not one being among others. God is not an object in the universe whose existence we can prove or disprove, which is why it's so easy for so many to wonder whether there is a God at all. We aren't dealing with a thing we can touch. We are in God as fish are in water, immersed in a reality that pervades our beings, our world, our inner lives. God, Tillich is saying, is the ground of our being, the very energy and source that sustains everything, everywhere, the power and presence that holds all in being and moves and acts within it. But the whole Bible is the story of how this mysterious one, this mysterious I am, takes repeatedly the initiative to come and engage us, we mortals, this history, this time. And so this story is of God calling Moses, a regular, very ordinary in his talents person, doing his daily work to respond to a call to be part of the liberation of his people. God comes to ordinary people in ordinary times and places and acts and reveals. Another way to put it, it would be to say, Moses stopped for a burning bush in which he saw and heard God. What this story is announcing is there are burning bushes everywhere. A flame around us. This great I am is speaking through the pieces of our universe, the pieces of our lives, the pieces of our world, the pieces of Boston, of our families, claiming us, calling us to follow, to know, to trust, and to love. This means that every place and every person can be an epiphany of the great I am, an expression of that being pouring forth in a particular time and place. Writer Tobias Wolff was once challenging a friend's resistance to believing at all in God when he said, "Your refusal to believe in God is like not believing in Bob Dylan because you've only heard the CDs and never saw him in concert. You're seeing the pieces and can't trust that there's a reality, a presence, a power, a genius behind it." Chances are that our restless yearnings for God will draw us to church, where our exploration goes on every week, but also to plenty of other places. I can't imagine keeping my faith alive without this building and these hymns that we sing, and all of you, and all of us circling around the altar when we receive communion, and all of us together agonizing over the violence of our city and our determination to make this city a better place. This is the crucial place we come to learn how to take in these epiphanies, these burning bushes that surround us, and to interpret them and relate them and integrate them into our lives. This is the place where we learn to see. And this is the place when we encounter the one who showed us definitively who God fully is. Because what we believe is that the great I am, several hundred years after what happened to Moses, actually walked the fields of Galilee, actually came among us as a human being, actually showed us that amidst all of God's mystery, there is one thing we know above all else, that yes, God's name is I am, but God's other name is love. And one terrible day, he hung on the cross to show us how far I am will go, to liberate us, to love us, and to call us. The great unknowable mystery Moses encountered came to us in Jesus of Nazareth. But God is at work far outside our walls, inspiring, encouraging, turning odd moments of our days into holy moments. God called Moses to liberate God's people, and God is calling us to our own work of liberation, setting God's people free from the violence, the inequities, the racism, the injustices, the poverty that so hang over our people and our time. God is calling us on this day of stewardship to open our eyes to the burning bushes and be grateful for what flows our way, and to join in this great movement of healing and liberation. Every day we are walking on holy ground. Bushes are blazing, and the ground of our being, the I am of our lives, the love at the heart of it all, is there to meet us. This unpin-downable, unshakable Yahweh is in our midst. Sometimes I think we should take off our shoes.